Well, I'll kick off. I've to a greater or lesser extent, I suppose, had a number of areas where I've disagreed with things, and at the end of the day, the nature of any team is that those disagreements ultimately resolve themselves to one collective view, and I've never actually been in a position where we haven't been able to achieve that. The one thing I would say on that is that that issue of conflict is true for any member of a management team. It's not unique to the CFO at all.
I mean, I found myself in one or two situations of conflict, and it became very important to me to be able to work with the board, directly with the board, if I was having issues, if you want, with my relationship with the chief executive. And there is a sort of sense as a finance director, I think, that you're quite isolated, and your options are quite limited. You can resign, and then you say to yourself, well, to what extent is resignation a failure? Well, it is really, or you can, try and resolve whatever the situation is. I personally found it, the most emotionally challenging aspect of my career as a finance director is conflict.
Yeah, I think there's always pressures, and the more sales-focused business, the more I think internal pressure is from, underneath, if you like, on the FD, because often it's a bottleneck. I think conflict is around the legal piece and the risk piece, and where you're taking potentially what is perceived as work away from sales teams, and you're having to say no. That's a day-to-day challenge in our world, where big clients want us to sign up potentially to ridiculous legal terms, and making sure that people understand why we're going to walk away from some business, because actually you're exposing the whole group potentially to risks that don't actually justify the returns, and there are other potential jobs that we can get. I think it's something that we see all the time.
So I think from my perspective, it's about depersonalising the situation and coming back to the basic facts. And I think once you point that out to the board, then collectively the decision-making process does come across and move on a lot easier. So whilst it is very emotional and there is a lot of stress involved in it, you really have to depersonalise it and come back to the basic facts of what the situation is.